Welcome to Midnight Affairs Tales, where secrets don't sleep. Tell us where you're watching from, then buckle up. And most important, never forget to subscribe to our channel. Starts now. You're not a hero. You're a coward in uniform, she screamed, but as the courtroom gasped, he slid a flash drive across the table. Inside? A confession, a bank trail, and footage that would destroy everything she built. The courtroom didn't breathe. Not a cough. Not a whisper. The judge, a woman with cold glasses and colder eyes, leaned forward. The bailiff froze mid-step. Emily's new lawyer, the high-priced one with the TV ads, adjusted his tie but couldn't hide the sweat darkening his collar. Michael Carrington didn't flinch. His left hand, scarred and calloused from 2 decades in combat zones, slid the small black flash drive across the polished oak table. It stopped just inches from Emily's perfectly manicured fingers. She didn't touch it. She stared at it like it would bite. And maybe it would. Because that little piece of plastic held everything. Not just emails or texts. It held dates, locations, voice memos, and one video, silent, shaky, recorded through a mirror, that changed the case from dishonorable father to criminal conspiracy. But that wasn't where this story began. No, it began 2 months earlier. With a flag in a trash can. Fort Bragg, North Carolina. 2 months earlier, the cab rolled to a slow stop, tires crunching against the curb of a sleepy suburban cul-de-sac. Michael stepped out, stiff from the flight, one hand clutching a gas station bouquet, the other holding a carefully folded American flag. His boots hit the concrete with the familiar weight of duty, but his chest was hollow. No welcome home banner. No little feet running to the door. No wife on the porch with tear-stained cheeks. Just silence. His house sat pristine, painted fresh, porch light humming, lawn mowed to military perfection. From the outside, it looked like a picture-perfect life. But nothing was perfect. Not anymore. He climbed the steps slowly, like approaching a minefield. Each creak of the wood was louder than the last. He reached the door, raised his hand to knock, then paused. From inside came a child's laugh. His daughter's laugh. He blinked, emotion swelling, then reached for the knob. Unlocked. The door swung open quietly. He stepped into his own house and froze. There, in the living room, was his daughter, Lily, now 6 years old. She was sitting cross-legged on the couch, eating cereal in pajamas covered in pink bunnies. A man sat next to her. Not a soldier. Just a man. In boxers. Michael's hand clenched. Veins bulged under the tattoos on his forearm. The man ruffled Lily's hair. She giggled and pointed toward the kitchen. Mom said we can go to the park after cartoons. The man smiled. We will, kiddo. Michael stepped forward. The floor creaked. The man turned, and time froze. The man's smile died instantly. Then came the scream. Michael. Emily stood in the kitchen doorway, holding a coffee mug. She wore his T-shirt, the one with the Rangers emblem. Her hair was tied up, makeup on, expression frozen between shock and calculation. She didn't run to him. She didn't cry. She whispered, "You weren't supposed to be back yet." 20 minutes later, "Say something," Emily snapped, standing in the backyard, arms folded. Michael stood at the edge of the patio, staring at the metal trash bin by the fence. Its lid was open. Inside was his flag. The one folded over his chest in Afghanistan. The one Lily kissed on video calls. The one his team signed after that last mission, where 3 of them didn't make it. Who the hell is he? Michael asked quietly. Emily scoffed. He's someone who was here when you weren't. I was deployed. You were gone. Her voice sharpened. I had to lie to my own daughter about where her father was. She thought you abandoned us. You told her I was dead? I told her what I had to. Her voice rose. I didn't know if you were ever coming back. You left us in limbo. No letters. No calls. Nothing. I sent letters. Every week. And video messages. Emily's face twitched. They never arrived. A silence hung between them. Heavy, toxic. That was when Michael knew. She had never given them to Lily. Not once. Later that night, Michael sat on the edge of a cheap motel bed, boots off, shirt still on. The motel TV played reruns of old war documentaries, the irony not lost on him. He pulled his duffel open, Tucked between uniforms and documents was a hard drive, his team's intel dump. During his last tour, Michael had worked cybersecurity for embedded special ops. He had access to software most civilians didn't know existed. He inserted the hard drive into his laptop, opened a window, and typed in 2 words, "Start log." If they wanted to lie, he would make the truth louder. The drive buzzed to life, black screen, white cursor blinking like a slow pulse. Michael's fingers hovered over the keyboard. Outside the motel window, rain began to fall. Gentle at first, then harder, like the world was trying to drown out what was about to happen. He typed in the decryption key. Project Echo Black. It wasn't just a name, it was the failsafe he designed himself. Before his last deployment, Michael had set up encrypted backups of all communications sent to his family through the military system. Video logs, recorded messages, even scanned copies of his handwritten letters. Everything the Army had approved. Everything Emily had said never arrived. One by one, the folders opened. Letter_01.pdf videolog_03.mp4 Lily_daycare birthday_encrypted.zip. He clicked play on a video. The screen filled with a dusty field behind the base. Michael, younger by 6 months, stood in front of the camera in uniform. Sunburnt, eyes tired, but smiling. "Hey, princess. Happy birthday. I know Daddy can't be there to eat cake with you, but this is me blowing out a candle just for you." He held a cupcake, lit it, then blew it out with a grin. "Tell Mommy to give you your bracelet. The one with the stars. I left it with her." Michael paused the video. His jaw clenched. His voice in that video, so sure, so trusting. He clicked open the military delivery logs. All marked, received. Emily had gotten every message, every letter, every gift. She just never showed them to Lily. Next morning, Fort Bragg. Michael drove through the gates with the kind of face that got waved through without a second glance. Inside, the base was alive with noise, cadets jogging, flags snapping in the wind, helicopters thudding in the distance. But he wasn't here for memories. He was here for someone he trusted. Noah Delgado had been his spotter for 6 years. Army Sniper Unit. Calm, loyal, and smarter than he looked. Noah worked logistics now, officially. Unofficially, he was still plugged into every base camera, personnel database, and archived comm log the Army ever touched. They met behind a maintenance shed, near the south perimeter. "You look like hell," Noah said. Michael didn't smile. "Feel worse." Noah's eyes dropped to the envelope in Michael's hand. "This about Emily?" Michael handed it over. Inside were printouts, message logs, delivery receipts, photos of Lily's new life with another man. "Damn," Noah whispered. "She told the base you ghosted. Said you abandoned her and the kid after your last tour. She told Lily I was dead." Noah's jaw tensed. "You want to report this?" "No," Michael said coldly. "I want to prove it." 2 days later, surveillance begins. Michael watched from the backseat of a rented SUV parked across from his old house. It was surreal, seeing another man, shirtless, mowing his lawn. Lily ran through a sprinkler, laughing. Emily sat on the porch sipping from a wine glass. Her phone buzzed. She laughed, typed something, smiled wide. Michael pressed record on the long lens body cam clipped to his chest. Noah's voice crackled through the earpiece. "Got the ping. She's been wiring cash to a private account in Atlanta, under a fake name." "Whose name?" Michael asked. "Yours." Michael froze. "What?" "Yeah, Mike. She's been funneling child support into an account tagged under your social. Makes it look like you kept the money." Michael's heart pounded. "That's fraud. Full-on federal." "Exactly. I've got the paperwork." Michael stared back at the house. And for the first time, he felt nothing. No sadness. No grief. Just purpose. That night, motel room. Michael pieced the board together like a battlefield map. Photos. Pins. Bank trails. Timeline charts. Voice recordings from her phone, pulled via remote sync when she connected to the house Wi-Fi. Text messages forwarded through Lily's old tablet, still registered to Michael's iCloud. Emily had rewritten his legacy, lied to Lily, claimed his medals, took his rank, his name, his story, and handed it to someone else. But Michael wasn't just collecting dirt. He was building something bigger, an unbreakable case. He added a folder labeled Asset 01 and dropped in all the financial logs. Then he added another, Asset 02, testimony. It was time to talk to someone who used to call Emily family. Next day, South Carolina Emily's sister, Alyssa, opened the door halfway, then stopped. Michael. He nodded. I thought you were dead, he asked. She stepped back in horror. She told us your truck hit an IED. He walked in without waiting for the full apology. She lied to all of you, he said, setting the folder down on her kitchen table. But you always saw through her. Alyssa sat slowly. What's in this? Truth. She opened it, skimmed the transcripts, froze at the bank logs. Then she saw the video, Lily's birthday message. The bracelet. Tears welled. I remember that bracelet. Emily said it was from her boyfriend. She's been gaslighting my daughter, Michael said softly. I need someone on the inside. I need someone Lily trusts. Alyssa didn't hesitate. I'm in. That evening, private recording, Michael adjusted the tiny camera Alyssa clipped to her blouse. You sure? He asked. She won't suspect anything, Alyssa said. She still thinks I hate you. Good. Noah monitored the signal. Clear line. Let's catch ourselves a liar. Inside Emily's living room, hidden camera feed, Emily poured wine as Alyssa sat across from her, pretending to scroll. I just saw Michael's face on a veteran's reel, Alyssa said casually. Looked alive to me. Emily laughed too quickly. It's an old clip. They recycle that stuff. Alyssa tilted her head. So weird. I keep thinking about how you told Lily her dad was a coward. Emily sipped. He left us. That's cowardly. But he sent letters, right? Gifts. Emily scoffed. Please. You think I let my daughter get attached to a ghost? I trashed those things. All of them. Lily doesn't need a half-dead PTSD case raising her. Alyssa's face didn't flinch, but Michael clenched his fist watching the live feed. Emily leaned in, lowering her voice. You know what I told her? That she was better off calling Jason her real dad. Alyssa nodded slowly. Thanks, she whispered. That's all I needed. Back at the motel, Michael sat in silence after the recording ended. He didn't speak, didn't blink, just stared at the screen. Then, finally, he clicked open a new folder. Asset 03, Custody Battle. The cheap motel buzzed with the sound of an ancient AC unit. But Michael didn't hear it. He stared at the screen, his fingers slowly tapping the table like a war drum, steady, quiet, unforgiving. On the monitor, Emily's face, mid-lie, her lips moving without shame, her laugh too sharp, the kind that sliced through loyalty like a blade. He rewound the clip again. I trashed those things. All of them. Her voice sounded like someone flipping a switch. Just like that, the man who bled through sand and fire for his family was reduced to trash. Not forgotten. Erased. Michael leaned back, rubbing a hand down his face. The beard was thicker now. The eyes darker. Sleep was a stranger. But focus? He'd never had more of it. He picked up his phone and made the call. She's going to learn something about loss, he said quietly. Start the custody fire. 3 days later, Emily sat in a lawyer's office, her posture casual, but her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. The man across from her was mid-40s, clean-shaven, expensive cufflinks, reputation bulletproof. Mr. Langford, she said sweetly, I'm not worried. Michael has no legal standing. No home. No job. No proof he even tried to contact Lily. Langford folded his hands on the desk. Emily, he has everything. She laughed. Excuse me. Copies of every letter. Delivery receipts. Birthday gifts. Transcripts of your calls. Wire transfers under his stolen ID. You're sitting on a landmine. She sat forward, that polished confidence cracking for just a second. You said we were in the clear. We were, until he hired a team. What team? Langford opened a file. Your sister's statement. Audio recordings. IP logs. Device pings. And a surprise witness that used to work for you at Lily's old daycare. Emily blinked. What are you talking about? Langford looked her straight in the eye. You told staff Michael was violent. That he had abandoned the child. That you had full custody. but Michael never signed away rights. And now? He's filing for primary custody and launching a defamation suit. Emily's face drained of color. He can't do that. Langford didn't blink. He's already done it. That night, Michael didn't go to sleep. He stood outside the courthouse at midnight, looking up at the building like a soldier studying terrain. He wasn't fighting for a win. He was fighting to prove the battlefield was real. He opened his duffel bag and pulled out 3 folders, sealed, tabbed, each one color-coded. 1. Custody petition. 2. Audio and financial evidence. 3. Video statements from his unit commanders, all verifying communication logs, delivery attempts, even last will proof that named Lily as beneficiary. Michael never abandoned his child. But now, he was about to rescue her. Lily sat in a therapy room across town, playing with building blocks while a court-appointed child psychologist gently asked questions. "Do you know who Michael Carrington is?" She looked up. "Mom says that's just a soldier from the internet." "Do you remember someone named Daddy?" Lily paused. Her little hand stopped moving. Then, softly, she whispered, "He sent me stars once. They were silver. On a bracelet." The therapist blinked. "What happened to it?" "Mom said it wasn't from him. She threw it away." Silence stretched. And across the street, watching through a one-way mirror, Michael stood motionless. He didn't cry. He didn't move. But something behind his eyes died and came back sharper. The next court date arrived faster than expected. Emily walked in like she owned the floor, heels loud, dress perfect, fake sympathy on her face. Michael walked in silently. No suit, just a clean button-down, military posture, and a small folder in hand. Emily waved to someone. "That's him," she whispered to the clerk. "He'll try to grandstand." But when Michael stood before the judge, he didn't raise his voice. He simply opened the folder, pulled out a single image, and held it up. A screenshot of a wire transfer, $2,800 sent from Michael Carrington to a Shell account, linked to Emily's private fund. The judge raised an eyebrow. Then came the second file, an IP match proving the origin device belonged to Emily's home Wi-Fi. Finally, the last piece, an audio clip. Emily's voice, recorded by Alyssa, saying, "It's not like he's ever coming back. He'll die in the sand like the others." Gasps in the courtroom. Emily's face cracked like glass under pressure. Michael looked at her once. Only once. And then he turned back to the judge and said, "I'm not here to win back a marriage. I'm here to take back the truth. And my daughter." Outside the courtroom, the press waited. Emily had gone viral weeks ago with her crocodile tears. Interviews about surviving abandonment, raising Lily alone, how military families suffer in silence. But this time, Michael walked out with a folder labeled Exhibit F under one arm and a silent, steel-cold presence the cameras couldn't ignore. The reporters surged. "Sergeant Carrington, do you have anything to say about your wife's statement?" He paused on the steps, looked directly into the cameras. "She said I was a ghost." A beat. But ghosts don't press charges. He walked off. That night, Emily got a notification. A video had been posted. The title, "The Truth She Buried," a soldier's last letters to his daughter. The thumbnail, Lily's birthday video. It spread like wildfire. Within 24 hours, the comments were relentless. "She erased a hero. This is heartbreaking. She deserves nothing. He didn't disappear," she silenced him. Sponsors dropped her. Her Instagram following plummeted. And by Monday, her lawyer filed a motion to withdraw from her case. Michael didn't celebrate. He sat at the same motel desk, watching Lily's video play again. She laughed at the candle on the cupcake. And in that moment, something inside him softened, just for a breath. But then the screen pinged. New alert. A flagged email address. Jason Sanders. The man in the house. The one on Michael's couch. New evidence. Attached. A phone call. 3 minutes long. One name mentioned repeatedly. Emily. And the word that made Michael sit up straight? Insurance. He leaned forward. Because this wasn't just betrayal anymore. This was a setup. And it wasn't over. Not yet. The motel room light flickered once and went out completely. Michael didn't even notice. He sat in the glow of his laptop screen, headphones on, replaying the audio clip attached to Jason's burner email. It wasn't just a random message. It was recorded surveillance, buried in a data dump, somehow slipped to him through an encrypted forwarding path. And what it revealed wasn't just cheating. It was collusion. Jason's voice came through faintly, grainy, like it had been recorded in a moving car. "You sure the policy covers military casualties?" Emily's voice followed, smooth and impatient. "I already checked. If he's declared Kia and the payout isn't disputed within 90 days, it's sealed." Michael leaned in. "Jason again. That's over 200 grand. You better pray that truck actually flipped." The call ended. Michael sat still for a moment, no emotion on his face. Then he calmly pulled out a fresh notebook from the drawer, opened it, and wrote one word at the top of the page: premeditated. He needed someone who knew the system inside and out. Military payouts, insurance timelines, legal channels for declaring a soldier killed in action, despite no confirmed body. There was one man, Major Terrell Vincent, retired Army, now working private contract compliance for the Department of Defense. Quiet, straight-laced. Owed Michael a favor from a blackout op 5 years back. Michael met him in a silent cafe, the kind with dusty furniture and no cameras. He slid over the printed transcript. Terrell read it once. Then again. "Jesus Christ," he muttered. "You think she tried to have you declared dead?" Michael didn't answer. Terrell leaned back, face pale. "I tracked that payout. It was processed. They filed for benefits 3 weeks after your convoy went dark. But I wasn't listed as dead," Michael said flatly. "No," Terrell said. "You were listed as MIA. But someone in the internal system, someone with base-level access, manually tagged your status as confirmed casualty. That triggered the insurance cycle." Michael's jaw set. "Who signed off?" Terrell hesitated. "You won't like it. Tell me." Terrell pulled up a digital archive and turned the screen toward him. It was a signature line. J. Sanders, Base Logistics Assistant, temporary civilian hire. Cleared through Emily's personnel records. "Jason." Michael's eyes narrowed, but his voice stayed low. "She handed him access. She coordinated it," Terrell said. "And if the claim had processed fully, she'd have walked with the money." Michael didn't respond. But something in the air around him shifted, like oxygen being pulled out of the room. Emily poured herself another glass of wine in the living room, her heels still on, the lights low. Jason sat on the couch, scrolling his phone, lazy and half-drunk. "You think it's really gonna stick?" he asked. Emily didn't look at him. "What?" "This court case. You think he's got anything left?" She took a long sip. "He's a soldier. He thinks justice means something." Jason grinned. "You ever tell him we filed the paperwork?" Emily's eyes darkened. "He was supposed to die. That's it." Jason whistled, low and mocking. "Didn't expect him to come back with a flash drive, huh?" Emily snapped her head toward him. "Keep your voice down." He shrugged. "You're the one who wanted the payout. I just made the papers move." She walked to the kitchen, but her voice floated back. "Be careful, Jason. He's not playing defense anymore." Jason rolled his eyes. "What's he gonna do? Shoot me in a parking lot?" From the hallway, a red light blinked. Alyssa's hidden cam, planted 2 days ago, transmitted every word. Michael watched the footage that night without blinking once. Then he picked up his phone and called Noah. "We've got motive," he said quietly. "Insurance fraud, impersonation, and conspiracy." Noah responded, "This is way past family court." "I know." Michael opened a locked drawer. Inside, a thumb drive. On it, GPS logs from the day he was tagged as MIA. "I want a complete file built, timeline, signed docs, recorded confession, bank movements. Everything." "Where's this going?" Noah asked. Michael's voice was pure steel. "To CID. The Army's Criminal Investigation Division wasn't easy to crack open. But Michael knew where the pressure points were. His name still meant something to a few people. People who had carried him half-dead out of that ambush. People who knew what it meant when he called them with facts, not speculation. Within 48 hours, an agent named McAllister met him behind the courthouse. "We're reviewing your case," she said, cool and direct. "But if what you're alleging is true, It is, Michael said. McAllister handed him a secure document drop link. Send everything. If this crosses into federal fraud or abuse of military systems, we'll press charges. He nodded once. But McAllister wasn't done. Just a warning, Sergeant. If you press this button, there's no pulling back. This isn't just about getting custody anymore. It's about tearing apart lives. Michael looked her straight in the eyes. They already tore mine apart. The media caught wind before the first official motion could be filed. A low-level blogger covering military custody disputes got hold of a leaked transcript. Emily's voice, mocking PTSD, calling soldiers disposable. By morning, the clip had gone viral. Sponsors pulled out of her parenting podcast. Former friends stopped responding. Local veterans protested outside her house with signs that read, "We don't forget our own." Jason tried to delete his social media. Too late. And that's when things spiraled. An anonymous email hit the local news station's inbox. Subject line, "He was supposed to die, but came home instead." Attached, the forged military death paperwork, a recorded call between Jason and Emily, a copy of the insurance pre-approval letter. The story aired in full. Michael stood alone on a sidewalk across the street from the courthouse as the anchors recited the words he never thought he'd hear. Emily Carrington, social advocate and military spouse influencer, is now under formal investigation for alleged insurance fraud and falsification of death documentation involving her active duty husband, Sergeant Michael Carrington. People passed him by without noticing. A father with a stroller. A teenager with headphones. A woman feeding pigeons. The world kept turning. But for Michael, time stopped. Because for the first time in 2 years, someone said his name with honor, not pity. And someone else was about to lose everything. The motel desk was scattered with documents, voice logs, military memos, and court forms. But Michael's focus locked on only one item, a still frame pulled from a daycare surveillance video, dug up by Noah's contact inside the school board. Lily, wearing a red hoodie, standing by the teacher's desk, her eyes wide, her mouth open, frozen in fear. Timestamped, 2 months ago. Same day Emily submitted the insurance paperwork. Same day Jason suddenly disappeared from work for 48 hours. Michael leaned in. The teacher was out of frame. The other kids? Scattered, blurred, in motion. But Lily? Still. Silent. He tapped the mouse and advanced the footage frame by frame. Then he saw it. Jason, in the hallway, speaking to someone on the phone, pacing. Lily peering out through the cracked classroom door. Her expression didn't say curiosity. It said terror. Michael called Alyssa immediately. "Has Lily ever talked about Jason?" he asked, voice sharp. "Sometimes," she said, confused. "She calls him her other dad, but anything about him yelling? Hurting Emily?" There was silence. Then, slowly, Alyssa spoke. "She told me something weird last week. She said Jason keeps a dark bag under the stairs. She said she saw something shiny in it." Michael felt the air leave his chest. "Did she say what it was?" "No." She got nervous. Changed the subject. Michael's grip tightened around the phone. "That bag, did Emily ever mention it?" "No," he paused. "Then it's time she gets asked the right questions." Emily opened her door with bloodshot eyes and a short temper. Alyssa smiled sweetly. "Just checking in. You always check in after my name hits the news?" Emily hissed, trying to hide the wine glass behind her leg. "I wanted to see Lily. She's napping." "Fine," Alyssa said, stepping past her. "Then let's talk about the dark bag under the stairs." Emily froze mid-sip. Then carefully, "What?" "You know what I mean," Alyssa said, her tone colder now. "The one Jason keeps locked." Emily shut the door behind them slowly. "That's nothing. Lily doesn't think so. Lily imagines things." Alyssa leaned closer. "So did I. Until the night I heard you whispering about wiping files." Emily's eyes went flat. "You think Michael's going to get her? That this pathetic comeback will fix everything?" Alyssa didn't blink. "I don't think he's trying to fix anything." "Then what?" "I think," she said softly, "he's already built the hammer that's going to destroy you." That same night, Michael sat parked 2 blocks from the house. He wasn't watching Emily anymore. He was watching Jason. Jason left just before midnight, duffel bag slung over his shoulder. He didn't take his car. He walked. Fast. Head down. Michael followed on foot, 2 blocks back. No sound. No light. Jason cut through an alleyway and disappeared into a storage facility. Michael gave it 5 minutes, then moved in. The lock on Jason's unit was newer than the others, heavy-duty, double-barred. Too obvious. Michael didn't break it. He picked it. Inside, he found what he expected and what he didn't. The duffel was there, unzipped. Inside, cash bundles wrapped in tight rolls, a second phone with no contacts, flash drives labeled with codes, a suppressed handgun, and 1 folder. Michael opened it slowly. Inside were printed photos of him. Surveillance shots from the motel. One of him meeting with McAllister. Another outside the courthouse. His mouth went dry. There was no mistaking it. Jason had been watching him. Noah didn't waste time when he saw the photos. "That's not amateur recon," he muttered. "That's hired surveillance. Someone paid for that intel. Can we trace the source?" "I'll try, but it smells like a deeper op." Michael nodded. "Which means we're past revenge now." He turned to face the wall, where all the evidence hung like a crime board in a war room. But his eyes were on only one thing. Lily. A photo of her, laughing, swinging, midair. He stepped forward and quietly pulled it down. Slipped it into his jacket pocket. "No more second-hand protection," he said. "I'm getting her out." Emily paced her kitchen the next morning, phone glued to her ear, voice a frantic whisper. "You told me they'd never connect the payouts to the temp system. You said the insurance approval was off record." Jason, on the other end, sounded calm. Annoyingly calm. "They don't have enough to get me," he said. "They're aiming at you." "Oh, that's comforting," she snapped. "You knew the risk." "I didn't think he'd survive the convoy." Jason's voice hardened. "You were the one who wanted out. You were the one who told me his death would clean the slate. I was fine being the side piece." Emily's breath caught. "You're going to burn with me, Jason." He paused. Then, quietly, "Maybe. But only one of us lied under oath." Click. She slammed the phone down and didn't notice the email that pinged her inbox seconds later. Subject: "I know what you tried to bury." No sender. No text. Just a 5-second clip of Jason saying, "You better pray that truck actually flipped." She stared at it, color draining from her face. For the first time since Michael returned, Emily looked afraid. Later that day, Alyssa opened her door to find a strange envelope on the porch. Inside was a court file. Stamped. Official. Michael's formal motion. Emergency custody hearing. Full transfer request due to endangerment, negligence, and evidence of criminal collusion. The hearing was scheduled in 48 hours. At the bottom, 3 witness names already listed. Alyssa Kane, Major Terrell Vincent, Agent T. McAllister, CAD, and in bold, Michael's statement. "If my daughter stays in that house another week, I may lose more than my name." That night, Michael didn't go to the motel. He slept outside the courthouse. In the truck. Engine off. Window cracked. Lily's bracelet tied around the rearview mirror. He didn't need rest. He needed readiness. Because part 1 was done. Part 2. It was war now. The courtroom was colder than usual. Not physically, emotionally. The walls didn't echo, but the tension did. People whispered before realizing their voices didn't belong here. The gallery was filled not with spectators, but with people leaning in, soldiers, local press, a few veterans, and one quiet little girl sitting beside her aunt. Lily, 6 years old, knees swinging, small hands gripping the straps of her bunny backpack. She wasn't supposed to be here yet, but Michael had requested it. Not out of cruelty, out of truth. She deserved to see who fought for her. And who didn't. Emily entered 15 minutes late. No smile. No eye contact. No signature heels, just flat shoes and a blazer 2 sizes too big, trying to shrink into herself. Her lawyer trailed behind, flustered. He knew what was coming. Judge Eileen Norris sat behind the bench, military widow herself, and not the kind to play politics in family court. "Let's proceed," she said. Emergency hearing. Petitioner, Sergeant Michael Carrington. Allegations: endangerment, custodial deception, fraudulent death notification, emotional neglect. Do I have that correct? Michael stood. Yes, Your Honor. Emily's lawyer cleared his throat. Your Honor, this entire case hinges on speculative. Sit down, Judge Norris said. And let him speak. Michael didn't raise his voice. He stood with a folder. 1. He didn't bring 5 lawyers or cameras. Just one truth. I was reported MIA during a confirmed ambush on August 9th. During my final deployment, he began. For 72 hours, I was out of contact due to classified extraction delays. He opened the folder, pulled out a document. This is a formal letter I wrote to my daughter, cleared and sent by military comms. It was received by my wife on August 5th. He slid it forward. It was never shown to Lily. Emily flinched. He set the next page down. This is my daughter's bracelet, mentioned in the letter, confirmed by her therapist as a memory she recalls, but which her mother claimed wasn't from me. He looked to the judge. That memory was nearly erased. The courtroom was silent. Michael set down the third document. This one heavier. This, he said, is a recorded conversation between Emily and a man named Jason Sanders, a civilian who had access to restricted military personnel files through Emily's connections. The screen behind him lit up. 5 seconds. You better pray that truck actually flipped. And silence. Judge Norris didn't even blink. Continue. Emily's lawyer tried to object, but Michael was already placing down a 4th file. This is the insurance claim, filed under my name, for death benefits, without a body, without confirmed casualty, fraudulent, and signed off using manipulated credentials. He turned to face the gallery, then back to the judge. I didn't come home for revenge. I came home for my daughter, the only person who deserves the truth. And I'm standing here today, not because I was lucky he held up the final piece, but because I survived something that was supposed to end me. Judge Norris gestured toward the gallery. Does the minor child wish to speak? Lily stood slowly. Alyssa squeezed her hand. Michael didn't move, his breath caught in his throat. She walked to the witness chair with her little steps, then sat quietly, feet dangling. Judge Norris leaned forward gently. Do you know why you're here today, sweetheart? Lily nodded. To talk about Daddy. Do you know which one? She pointed. Him. Not the other one. The soldier one. A slight, collective gasp. Even the reporters held their breath. Do you remember when you saw him again? Lily nodded. He looked sad, like he lost something. What did Mommy tell you about him? Lily looked down at her shoes. She said he was not real anymore. She said he didn't want to be my daddy, that he disappeared because he didn't love us. Michael's eyes glistened, but he didn't look away. Judge Norris pressed gently. And what do you believe now? Lily finally looked up. He didn't leave. She just didn't want me to wait. Then, barely above a whisper, she lied. Emily stood up. She's confused. She's being manipulated. This is coercion. Judge Norris cut her off. I've heard enough. She tapped her gavel once. Then again. Effective immediately, full physical and legal custody is awarded to Sergeant Michael Carrington. Supervised visitation for Emily Carrington pending further psychological evaluation and criminal review. Emily's mouth dropped open. You can't do this. Michael turned to face her now. You did this, he said, calm as ever. But his voice hit like a sniper round. Outside the courthouse, flashbulbs popped. Reporters surged. Michael didn't speak. He walked past them, hand in hand with Lily, down the courthouse steps, toward the truck. She looked up at him. Where are we going? He smiled for the first time in months. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere real. She grinned. Can I bring the bunny? Always. Behind them, a sheriff's car rolled up to the curb. Emily stepped outside the courthouse just as 2 officers approached her. One read her rights. The other held a warrant. Federal fraud, obstruction, conspiracy. She collapsed into the seat, mascara streaking her cheeks, jaw slack in disbelief. Someone in the crowd whispered loud enough for the mic to catch. Guess he was a hero after all. That night, in a small, rented house outside Fayetteville, Michael tucked Lily into bed. She reached up and touched the bracelet he'd saved all this time, now tied around her wrist. Thank you for not giving up, she said. He kissed her forehead. No matter how far they send me, he whispered, I'll always find my way back. The hallway light clicked off, and for the first time in 2 years, he slept without watching the door. The knock came at 3:42 a.m. Michael had barely slept, even with Lily safe under his roof, even with Emily facing charges, even after the judge handed him everything that mattered. The weight in his chest hadn't left. He opened the door with the Glock already in his hand, low and ready. The man on the porch didn't flinch. Gray coat, gray eyes. Not a cop. Name's Weller, the man said. Private investigator. Former CID. We need to talk about Jason Sanders. Michael didn't lower the gun. You working for the court? No, Weller said calmly. I'm working for someone who heard your name echo through some very old corridors. Someone who wants to make sure the next move doesn't kill your daughter. Michael's jaw tensed. Start talking. Weller reached into his coat pocket, slow, deliberate, and pulled out a sealed folder. Inside was a photo, black and white, grainy surveillance. Jason Sanders, holding a briefcase, meeting with 2 men in military contractor uniforms. One bore a patch Michael hadn't seen in years. His voice went cold. That's not local. No, Weller said. It's Langridge Group. You know the name. Michael nodded once. He knew it too well. Langridge Group wasn't just a private contractor. It was a blacklisted PMC Michael had helped shut down during an off-book mission in Yemen 8 years ago. Human trafficking, weapons smuggling, the kind of operation you bury with medals and lies. Jason working with Langridge meant one thing. This wasn't just about Emily. Weller poured cheap motel coffee into 2 chipped mugs. I tracked Jason to a drop point south of Charlotte. He met with an asset carrying falsified IDs and a burner passport. For who? Emily. Michael's blood ran cold. She's trying to run? She already did, Weller said. Slipped out of county supervision yesterday. Your daughter was never the endgame. She was the cover. For what? Weller slid over another photo. A storage unit. The same one Michael had broken into. But this time, the image showed more than Jason. It showed documents, military procurement slips, confidential movement schedules, deployment rosters, stolen intel. Your boy Jason's been moving more than cash, Weller said. He's been collecting data, selling it overseas. The payout would have been nice if you had died. Michael's pulse ticked up. And if I didn't? Then discredit you. Take your kid. Break the name. Burn the badge. Michael looked out the window. Rain tapped softly against the glass. So now what? He asked. Weller leaned forward. We bring him in. But not before we take everything he's protecting. By sunrise, Michael was driving north with Weller riding shotgun, a military-grade USB key in his glove compartment. Noah had decoded the flash drives from Jason's storage unit. Inside were communications between Jason and an unregistered Eastern European handler, encrypted. But the timestamps lined up with every major event in Michael's downfall. The court filing, the insurance claim, even the fake article Emily helped push online about his desertion. Michael wasn't just being erased by accident. It was a precision operation, character assassination with a payout on the back end. Weller broke the silence. He's not done. That folder in the unit? It had one more photo. He passed it over. Michael looked and froze. Lily, walking to school, backpack on, alone. Weller said quietly. It was taken 4 days ago. They arrived at a burned-out gas station on the outskirts of an abandoned truck stop. The coordinates pulled from Jason's last signal ping. Michael and Weller went in quiet. No flashlights. No noise. Inside, they found the briefcase. Empty, but not clean. Taped inside the lid was a note, written in thick black marker. You should have stayed dead. Michael exhaled, slow and hard. Then he noticed something else, the floor. Fresh scuff marks. A trapdoor. He knelt down. Pulled. A cellar. Inside was what Jason left behind. A burner laptop. Open. Running. A live stream window still blinking. Uploading to cloud, 12%. Weller pulled out his own equipment and yanked the drive. Michael scanned the room, then saw it. Pinned to the wall. Lily's drawing, but not a happy one. A house on fire. A little girl running. Two shadows chasing. Michael didn't wait for court orders anymore. He didn't call social services or CPS. He went straight to the school. Lily had just been dismissed, walking with Alyssa, hand in hand, raincoat buttoned to her chin. He scooped her up without a word. Alyssa, go home. Don't turn on any lights. Don't answer the door. Alyssa looked at him. What's going on? Michael met her eyes. Someone's not done with us yet. They moved again. Third safe house. Noah rerouted their phones. Weller wiped every trace of Lily's school enrollment from county servers. By nightfall, they were off the grid. Michael tucked Lily into bed on a fold-out couch, wrapping her in a blanket too big for her. She looked up at him. Daddy? Yeah, I'm scared again. He nodded. Me too. She held out her bracelet. This is real, right? He took her hand. You're real. I'm real. The rest? We'll take care of it. Emily sat in a motel 3 states away, chain-smoking and pacing like a caged animal. Jason stood by the window, reading a burner phone. This guy Weller? He's ex-Black Cell. He's gonna get in. Then we leave tonight, she hissed. Jason didn't move. You don't get it, do you? He was the one guy I warned you about. The one you don't screw over. Emily scoffed. He was weak. Emotional. I made him into what he is now. Jason turned. His smile was cold. Then you made your own executioner. Back at the safe house, Weller laid out a map. They'll try to cross the border tonight. Jason's buyer's meeting is scheduled in less than 18 hours. Michael stood by the window, watching the dark, feeling it press against the glass like a wave that never ended. He reached down, tightened the straps on his boots. Weller looked up. You're going in? Michael didn't answer. He picked up the duffel, loaded one mag, then another. Because if this was the final act, he wasn't bringing paperwork. He was bringing justice. The gravel cracked beneath the tires as Michael drove without headlights, the black SUV hugging the edge of the Carolina backwoods like a shadow that knew how to stalk. Beside him, Weller reviewed the feed coming in from a surveillance drone, borrowed tech from one of Noah's private contractor friends. Michael hadn't asked questions. He didn't need to. Every move from this point on was sanctioned by pain, not paperwork. They're in the cabin, Weller muttered. 2 bodies. No third signal. The buyer's likely en route. Michael's hands gripped the wheel tighter. What about Lily's photo? That drawing on the wall, Weller's side. It wasn't just art. Michael glanced over. Weller tapped the tablet. The image zoomed in. The little girl drawn running from the burning house wasn't alone. She was dragging someone else behind her. Another child. Or at least, a shadow shaped like one. Jason's been part of a long game, Weller said. That storage facility he used? It's been registered under 3 fake names tied to missing kids investigations. Michael's stomach turned to stone. You think he used my daughter to traffic others? We're not sure yet. Michael's voice was flat steel. Then I'm going to make sure. They pulled off the main road and hiked in silence for the last quarter mile, approaching the cabin on foot through pine-slick brush and rising fog. The cabin sat on the edge of a dry lake bed, long abandoned, no neighbors, no power lines. Just rot and secrets. Inside, 1 flickering lantern. 2 voices. Michael could hear them now. Emily pacing. Jason sitting, chewing on something gum maybe, or the inside of his own cheek. She's not gonna drop it, Emily hissed. He won in court. He'll come after us. Jason laughed. No, he won't come after us. He'll come after me. Emily froze. What do you mean? You set him up. I used him. Same thing. Jason stood. No, because he doesn't shoot cheaters. He shoots traitors. Michael kicked in the door with the weight of a steel battering ram. Jason turned just in time to catch a full shoulder to the chest, sending him crashing through a cheap card table and into the floorboards. Emily screamed, stumbling backward. Michael didn't even glance at her. He stepped over Jason, grabbed the back of his coat, and slammed him into the wall hard enough to rattle the lantern. You were done when you touched her, he growled. Jason spat blood, grinning. Funny. That's exactly what she said about you. Michael's hand moved fast, clutching Jason by the throat and pinning him against the cabin wall. Weller entered behind him, gun raised. "Clear," he called. Michael kept his voice steady. "Where's the buyer?" Jason chuckled. "Horse. Already left." Michael leaned closer. "Wrong answer." He drove a fist into Jason's ribs. Once, then again. Jason choked, wheezed, dropped to his knees. "You think you're still a soldier?" he spat. "You're just a broken name with a badge they forgot." Michael crouched down. "They forgot my medals, not my methods." He pulled a flash drive from his coat pocket and slid it into the nearby laptop. Footage played automatically. Jason's face drained. It was his own voice, on the phone with the buyer, negotiating Lily's handoff window. Emily backed into the corner, shaking. "I didn't. He didn't tell me that." Michael turned on her, calm and unblinking. "You were so focused on killing me off, you never asked what he was doing with your daughter's life." She started to cry. He cut her off. "Don't." Weller cuffed Jason. "We have enough for federal kidnapping conspiracy and attempted trafficking. You'll rot." Jason only smiled. "They won't convict me." Weller raised a brow. "Why?" Jason sneered, blood dripping down his lip. "Because this isn't about you. It never was. This goes deeper than custody and cash. Ask your friend here what else he buried in Yemen." Michael didn't move. Weller turned slowly. "What's he talking about?" Jason chuckled. "Oh, right. He didn't tell you." "Shut up," Michael warned. But Jason kept going. "You left a village behind, didn't you? One no one talks about. One with your name on the evac report, except no one got out." Michael stepped forward. And this time, Weller blocked him. "Is he telling the truth?" Michael didn't respond. Weller turned back to Jason. "You really think dragging him through the past will save you?" Jason's grin turned venomous. "I think if I'm going down, I'll take him with me." 30 minutes later, the local authorities took custody of Jason. Weller stayed behind to handle the federal chain. Emily? She was left alone, cuffed in a separate vehicle, trembling, mascara streaking down her face like war paint smeared wrong. Michael didn't speak to her. She tried once. "Michael." "I didn't know." He looked at her like a stranger, like she was nothing but wreckage on the road behind him. "You told her I was dead." She started to shake. He leaned in, voice low. "Now the world knows who killed what." By dawn, Michael was back at the safe house. Lily sat at the kitchen table, her hair a mess, still half asleep and gripping her stuffed bunny like a lifeline. She looked up at him. "Did the bad man go away?" Michael nodded. "He's gone." She tilted her head. "For real?" "For good," he said. She smiled. "Can we go home now?" Michael knelt beside her. "We are home." She reached for him, wrapped her arms around his neck. And for the first time, he let go, not of control, not of the mission, of the war inside him. That night, alone, he lit a match and burned every file. All of it. The photos, the court transcripts, the forged documents, even the bracelet's original mailing slip. Ash swirled into the night sky. He didn't need trophies. He had Lily, and she would never grow up wondering who loved her. Because now, the man they tried to erase was the only one still standing. Jason didn't sleep his first night in federal holding. And not because of the cold steel bunk or the cuffs cutting his wrist raw. It was the silence. No texts. No burner calls. No handler whispering promises through encrypted channels. Just the sound of the past catching up to him. He stared at the cell ceiling, the fluorescent light buzzing like static inside his skull. This wasn't part of the plan. Michael Carrington was never supposed to survive, let alone rise from the dead, dragging his name, his daughter, and his entire story behind him like a hammer. But Jason had one more play. 6 hours later, the prison warden received a flash drive hand-delivered by a government courier. The label read, "Top Priority, Whistleblower Declaration" inside. Jason's final card. A signed affidavit claiming Michael Carrington was involved in an illegal cover-up operation during his Black Ops service in Yemen. That he was responsible for leaving behind a civilian village during a drone misfire. That the entire revenge campaign was a smokescreen to distract from his own buried crimes. The file was sent to 3 places simultaneously, The U.S. Military Review Board, 3 major media outlets, and CID headquarters within hours. Headlines exploded. Breaking. Decorated Army vet turned vigilante may be hiding war crimes exclusive. Documents suggest custody hero has darker past than public. New leaked dossier ties Sergeant Michael Carrington to failed Yemen operation. It spread like wildfire. The same press that praised him last week now turned their mics, looking for the fall. Michael saw it from the motel's ancient TV screen. A pixelated anchor repeating words like allegation, unconfirmed, and possible cover-up. Noah paced behind him. You want me to shut it down? Leak something back? Michael stood in silence. Stone still. Calm. No, he said. We use it. Noah frowned. Use it how? Michael turned to face him. Eyes clear. We give them the real story. The next morning, Michael uploaded a file titled Project Glasswall to 3 public servers. Inside the zip, redacted reports from the Yemen mission body cam footage, drone satellite images, and a personal statement recorded the night before, but this wasn't damage control. It was a full confession on his own terms. The video opens in darkness. Then a lighter flicks on. A candle burns. Michael sits in front of the camera. Plain t-shirt. No medals. No weapons. Just truth. You've heard Jason's side. Now hear mine. My name is Sergeant Michael Carrington, and I am no hero. He pauses. The silence is louder than his voice. 8 years ago, during a mission I wasn't supposed to survive, I was ordered to extract a high-value target from a rural village in Yemen. Intel failed. The drone strike hit too early. 3 houses were destroyed before we even landed. His jaw tightens. We radioed for medical evac. Got silence. Command told us to pull out. I refused. I stayed. We recovered 12 people, women, kids, a wounded teacher, but we left others behind. I don't know if they made it. A long breath. I carried that every day, but I didn't erase it. I didn't lie. Jason Sanders did. He stole classified files, altered them, then sold them. For profit. And when I came home to a daughter who thought I was a ghost, he tried to bury me for good. His voice hardens. I won't apologize for surviving. I won't apologize for fighting to be a father. But I will expose every man who tried to profit off the war that almost broke me. He leans forward. Jason, you think you've got secrets? I've got your emails, your meetings, your transfer logs, your buyer list. And now, so does the world. He blows out the candle. The screen goes black. Within 24 hours, Michael's upload went viral. Hashtags flooded the internet. Hashtag Carrington Truth, hashtag Hero Not Ghost, hashtag Shalida Fought Veterans reposted the statement with captions like, I served with Mike. He carried his dead out while others ran. He was the only guy who stayed when the radios went dark. The public flipped back. News anchors scrambled to clarify. Talk shows dissected every frame of the confession video like it was the Zapruder tape. Emily, hiding in a friend's apartment, watched it unfold on her cracked phone. The comments were brutal. She erased her daughter's dad and cashed the check. What kind of mother calls a soldier a coward and sleeps next to a trafficker? She wanted a dead hero. He gave her a live reckoning. Meanwhile, Michael walked into CID headquarters, alone. No lawyers, no advisors, just a file in his hand and a mission in his bones. McAllister met him in the main hallway, frowning. You didn't have to come in. We're already dismissing the whistleblower statement as fabricated. I'm not here for that, Michael said. He handed over a folder. This is Jason's full communication trail. Passwords, handlers, bank shells. Everything. There's enough in here to shut down whatever Langridge was planning to resurrect. McAllister flipped through the first page, then the second, then stopped cold. A list of names, some from military ranks, others from government contracts. A few circled in red. These people, she asked. Michael nodded. Jason didn't work alone. That night, Michael met with Weller and Noah at a diner that smelled like grease and war stories. He tried to flip it, Noah said. Tried to make the world question the one good thing you came back with. Michael stirred his black coffee. Let him. Weller raised a brow. Why? Michael looked out the window. Rain again. Always rain. Because I didn't come back to be praised, he said. I came back to be a father. And now, everyone knows the cost. Weller nodded. Then let's finish this. The final hearing arrived. Jason was transported in shackles. Emily was brought in under house arrest, her wrists trembling in cuffs hidden beneath a too-long sweater. Michael stood tall, pressed uniform. Lily's bracelet wrapped neatly around his wrist under the sleeve. Judge Norris entered. Calm, focused. The court recognizes this session as the final phase of custody and criminal proceedings involving the Carrington family and the defendant Jason Sanders. She turned to Michael. You may speak. He stepped forward, voice steady. No theatrics. This was never about revenge. It was about reclaiming a name. My name. My daughter's. And the truth that two people tried to destroy. He looked directly at Emily. You said I wasn't a hero. You called me a ghost. You lied to my daughter and told the world I ran. Then he looked at Jason. You used a little girl's silence to cover your crimes. He held up a copy of Lily's drawing. She drew your ending before any of us saw it coming. The gallery murmured. Judge Norris banged the gavel once. Then again. I have reviewed the military findings, the public testimony, the confession, and the full investigative report submitted by CID. She looked at Jason. Jason Sanders, you are hereby sentenced to 25 years federal with no possibility of parole. She turned to Emily. Emily Carrington, for perjury, custodial fraud, and attempted conspiracy to commit insurance fraud. You will serve a reduced sentence under state correctional with a 5-year probationary block post-release. Custody remains with the biological father, Sergeant Michael Carrington. Then she did something unexpected. She stood, removed her glasses, and looked at Michael directly. My husband didn't make it back. You did. Don't waste it. Michael saluted. Once. Then turned, never looking back. Later, at a park with golden light pouring through the trees, Lily sat on her father's shoulders, giggling as he lifted her toward a swing-set bar. You ever gonna take that bracelet off? She asked. Michael smiled. Not a chance. She leaned down and whispered something that stopped his heart cold. Mom used to say ghosts weren't real. Michael's voice caught. But I think sometimes ghosts come back to protect people. He looked up. I'm not a ghost, baby. I'm the storm that made them run. She giggled. I like that. And somewhere in a hard drive backed up to 3 different continents, a voice played one final line from Michael's statement. She called me broken, but I built something unbreakable. The breeze carried the scent of fresh rain and newly cut grass. It was quiet, not like the silence Michael had known on deployment, where danger crouched in every corner, but real silence. Peace, the kind you earn, not just find. Michael sat on the worn steps of the old house he'd inherited from his grandfather, one hand resting on his knee, the other holding a small paper cup of black coffee. The porch creaked softly under him. Inside, he could hear Lily's footsteps pattering across the hardwood floor, her laugh echoing from room to room as she chased their dog, a mutt named Rebel she'd insisted on adopting. He smiled, faint but real. 2 weeks ago, the custody order had gone into full effect. The case was closed. Jason was locked away in a federal facility, facing charges that would follow him until he was nothing more than a file in a cold cabinet. Emily was serving her sentence in state custody, barred from contact with Lily for a minimum of 5 years. It was over, or close enough. The scars were still there, on paperwork, in headlines, in the way Michael flinched when a car idled too long outside the house. But some things don't go away. They just become part of the build. Later that afternoon, Michael stood at a small wooden table in the living room, carefully unfolding a long cloth bundle. Inside were the medals, Bronze Star, Purple Heart, unit citations, and one battered bracelet, Lily's, now fitted with a new clasp, resized to match her growing wrist. She stood nearby, watching. Those are yours, she asked. He nodded. They were given to me, but they belong to both of us. Why? He looked up at her. Because I didn't survive all that for me. She walked closer. Can I wear mine again? He smiled, picking up the bracelet. Only if you promise not to lose it this time. She held out her hand, proud. I won't. He clasped it gently around her wrist, then reached for the last item in the cloth, the folded American flag he'd carried back from Afghanistan. She looked at it with wide eyes. That's the one that was in the trash, right? Michael didn't speak. He placed it in a new frame, solid oak, freshly sanded, hand-finished over the last week, and set it above the mantel. Not anymore. That evening, just before sunset, Michael took Lily for a walk along the trail behind their property. It led to a clearing that overlooked the valley, where sun rays broke through the clouds like something holy. Lily sat on a rock near the edge, swinging her legs as the wind lifted her hair. Are you ever going away again? She asked, almost too casually. Michael sat beside her, watching the wind roll across the hills. Not like before. But you went away for work, right? To save people? He nodded. She looked up. Then why did she say you didn't want to come back? The question landed like a bullet. Not unexpected, but no less painful. Michael looked down at his hands, thick with calluses, stained with memories he hadn't spoken out loud. Sometimes, he said slowly, people don't know how to handle someone who's been through too much. So they turn you into something easier, something they can leave behind. Lily thought about that. Like a ghost. Exactly, he said. She reached for his hand. You don't feel like a ghost to me. He squeezed her hand gently. That's because you believed in me, even when they didn't. The mail came 2 days later. A plain envelope, no return address. Inside, a notarized statement of apology from Emily. Not personal, just legal. Part of her plea deal. Michael read it once, then slid it into a folder labeled closed. But there was something else inside the envelope. A folded, faded photograph. Him, Emily, and baby Lily, taken the week before his first deployment. Michael stared at it a long time, then stood, walked outside, lit a match, and let it burn in a small metal tray, every edge curling, blackening, then vanishing in a soft puff of ash. Later that night, Michael sat with Lily in the living room, a blanket over their laps as the television played some cartoon she barely paid attention to. She rested her head against his chest. Small, warm, safe. Can I ask you something? She mumbled sleepily. Anything. Are you happy now? He didn't answer right away. He watched the screen flicker, listened to the rhythm of her breath, felt the silence settle into something soft. I think I'm getting there, he said finally. She yawned. Then I'm getting there with you. Weeks turned into months. Michael fixed up the house, not for resale, but for permanence. He planted a garden, built a treehouse, framed Lily's drawings, and hung them where medals used to hang. She started a new school, made new friends. People stopped whispering. The reporters moved on. The hashtags faded. And in the place where betrayal once lived, there was something better. Not healing, not forgetting, just peace. One Saturday morning, Michael and Lily stood outside a small community center. A sign above the door read, Carrington House for Military Families in Transition. Inside, local veterans unpacked boxes, installed shelves, and painted walls. Weller and Noah were there too, no longer just allies. Now something closer to family. Michael had used part of his court settlement, along with a donation campaign sparked by his viral story, to open the nonprofit. It would house families torn apart by war, give counseling to children who'd lost connection, and help survivors reclaim their names. Lily walked in holding a sign she'd made herself, crayon letters, crooked and perfect. It read, This place is for the dads who came home. Michael knelt to hang it beside the front desk. Someone asked if he wanted his story on the wall. He shook his head. It's not about me, he said. Then he looked over at Lily. It's about her. That night, after dinner and dishes and one too many bedtime stories, Michael stepped outside. The stars were clear overhead. He reached into his pocket and pulled out something small, a pin once torn off during a firestorm in Kabul. He held it for a long moment, then buried it in the dirt by the porch. Not as a secret, as a marker. He didn't need to prove who he was anymore. He'd already done it. Back inside, Lily was asleep, bracelet on, nightlight glowing soft. He shut the door gently behind him, then leaned against the wall, hands in his pockets. A quiet filled the space, the kind that doesn't ask for silence, the kind you earn. And in that moment, standing in a home no longer haunted, beside the girl who brought him back, Michael Carrington felt something settle in his chest. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't justice. It was the feeling of being remembered, not as a soldier, not as a victim, but as a father who never stopped fighting. Final line. She said he was broken, but what he rebuilt was unbreakable. Now take a moment and tell us, where are you watching from right now? Which country and city?